Geez Louise, Redbird is not just a statue to pose and take pictures by. He's a real live living person that we need to learn about in our history. And that's what we're here today on episode 6 of Unravel, the myth. Redbird. Take a look at him. I'll do a close-up at the end. I have fact sheets I'm handing out today. I'm just going to go over a few of these things with you in this episode. Redbird was the oldie Ho-Chunk Winnebago Indian who was punished for the 1827 Redbird War. During the uprising, the government decided to build Fort Winnebago. This statue belongs at Fort Winnebago, but because that's where he surrendered, and that's what he looked like at surrender. But apparently Fort Winnebago didn't want it. So they put it here. This is Ho-Chunk land at High Cliff State Park. Redbird had always been friendly with the natives around Prairie du Chien where he had his village. He was a minor chief of the Ho-Chunk. And they had their village at Prairie du Chien. Why they're here at Appleton is probably for the reason I said. They didn't know where else to go with them after they built them. Very larger than life statue, seriously. What happened was in 1826, sugar camp people were killed and nobody ever knew who. So they arrested 2 Ho-Chunk on some flimsy evidence and put him in jail at Fort Snelling up in Minnesota. Well, the Indians found out that, or heard a rumor that the Sioux were allowed to kill those prisoners. They never got a trial. They were just held in prison. I think they were at Fort Crawford, and then they were moved to Fort Snelling. So then, 1827, and some of the white miners and settlers are saying that they heard a rumor that, a lot of rumors, right? Redbird was planning an uprising. This probably came out after the attacks, right? But in 1827, in like June, a party of keelboat operators, keelboat soldiers were going back from St. Louis to Fort Snelling up the Mississippi. They stopped at a Ho-Chunk camp, and I'm not sure it's Redbird's. Redbird doesn't sound like he's involved in this, but they stopped at his camp. And they stopped at this camp and they had alcohol and they wanted women. So they ended up, when the Indians regained their senses from being drunk, some of their women were missing. They were taken on the boat. Well, they wanted them back. The whole idea was just crazy that they never gave them permission to take their women, you know. So they asked Redbird, since he was friendly with the people in Prairie du Chien, to go and ask about them. See if maybe they're in the Prairie du Chien area somewhere. They were dropped off there. Go ask about them. So Redbird, being friendly to them and well known, went there with a couple of his friends to a guy's house. I had that written down, but I think it was Augustus Greeno. Anyway, he went to this, no, maybe that wasn't it. But he went to this guy's house, Regnier, that was his name. He went to his house, and they didn't know how to ask about these women. It was an awkward, uncomfortable encounter in their house. And I think that what happened, I wasn't there, but what it sounds like happened, based on other reports, is that the guys, the white guys, the French white guys in the house started reaching for their weapons because they realized something was up, and they were killed. So Redbird and his companions got out of there, and I believe they were headed up the Wisconsin River at this time. But when those Fort Snelling soldiers were starting to come back downriver towards St. Louis again, the Indians started going out in their boats and asking them, where are their women? And the white soldiers shot them. One of the boats got away, but the other one, the Indians attacked. And that was considered the second attack in the Winnebago uprising. Redbird wasn't there at that time. Redbird wasn't there. But then the word was out that Redbird was the one in charge of this whole war and that he had to be stopped. There's a lot more involved to this. But the reason that most people say that the Winnebagos were guilty is that nobody found what I found, and that was in the St. Louis Republican, an article about this drunken party. That had been obliterated by every other historian except Governor John Reynolds of Illinois, and he may have been the one who wrote that editorial because he said the exact same thing in his autobiography. So Redbird finally surrendered. He surrendered in what you see here. This is the moment of his surrender. And here's how Thomas McKinney, Indian agent, how am I doing on time? I probably can't read this. I'll put this in the text box, how they described his surrender, but I want to end with this, that only Redbird surrendered, only Redbird was held in prison. He was kept there until he died. He did not get a trial, but he died of dysentery in prison. Why it's here, like I said, that's just guesswork. Thank you, and I'm going to end with a nice close-up of the statue.
Your sister, Tom?
Okay, this is going to be on YouTube. The podcast is called Unravel the Myth. I'm a historian. And these kids agreed to pose with me. Tell me your first name.
Mackenzie. Callan.
I'm sorry, what was it?
Callan.
Callan?
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie? Very good. They posed just so you can see how big that statue really is. Thank you for attending another Unravel the Mysteries Louise podcast.